What's up, everybody? My name is Aaron Ciotti. Everybody just calls me Ciotti. And today we are reviewing the Emax Tinyhawk Race 2. This is a quad that was sent over to me by Emax for review. Huge thank you to Emax for that. And I figured since I'm doing a lot of live streaming, I'm actually 19 days into doing daily quarantine live streams on my channel here on YouTube. I figured, hey, let's review this thing live. I've been flying it for the last 2 or so weeks. And let's talk a little bit about it. Made myself some notes here, so let me just hit a couple specs first and foremost to get that out of the way. This is a bind and fly rig, so it's going to come ready to go. Get it bound up to your FR Sky transmitter, and you're up in the air, which is really nice. It's got 1103 7500 kV motors, 5 amp ESC on the all-in-one board, SPI receiver with D8, 25, 100, or 200 milliwatts, and the VTX is actually pretty good. I know that's been a complaint in the past, that Emax VTXs weren't as strong maybe, but this one is really good. You're going to see in some of the flight footage here in a little bit that the signal's great, and it looks fantastic in my rapid fire module and the Fat Sharks. 47.5 grams dry. And then they supply two 1S 450 mAh batteries. With both of those batteries on board, all up, you're looking at 73 grams for your all-up weight. RunCam Nano 2 is the camera, which again, you'll see in a minute here from a quick little edit that I made just with some flight footage so that you guys can sort of see the performance. Importantly, the carbon fiber is in the correct direction on the frame. The carbon fiber weave runs the length of the arms, and because of that, the 2 millimeter thick carbon fiber frame is plenty strong. I was really happy with that. That's something that unbelievably still is not getting noticed and is not, just a lot of folks aren't orienting the carbon properly, and when you do, it makes a big difference. So huge thumbs up to Emax on that. In terms of, also the tune that it comes with is actually really good. I did bump my P and my D gains up by 10 or so, 5 to 10, just because I've been flying for a long time and I have a specific kind of feel to the tune that I like, but the initial tune flies fantastic out of the box. If you're a new pilot, you could probably put like a year's worth of flying in on that initial tune before even thinking about upping it and making it a little bit more aggressive. So again, big thumbs up on that. It's great to have a tune that's not completely crazy out of the box, so that again, for new pilots, if they bang up props and don't know to limp it back or take the walk of shame, they're not going to cook a motor or an ESC. Propellers, it comes with these fantastic little 2-inch Avon blur props, which were the first ones that I flew. I then moved over to the Lumineer 2.2-inch. Some people call these bow tie props because it kind of looks like a bow tie. These flew great as well. Moved over to the Emax 4-blade. These were nice. Tried the GemFan, what are these, 2023? Yeah, GemFan 2023. This is a brand new prop. This flew great as well. The Azure 2035 was not quite as well balanced as some of the others. Still flew okay, but it's just, again, not as well balanced, which gives the PID tune a hard time. HQ 2 by 2.5 by 3. Again, not perfectly balanced, but a good durable prop. And then I came back to the 2-inch blur, and after all that, I actually prefer the 2-inch blur prop. Very durable, and it's just got a really nice mix of efficiency and good throttle feel. To be totally honest, it is pretty hard to tell the difference between some of these 2-inch props. So things like durability become a big deal. And this 2-inch blur prop is incredibly durable. The prop weights do vary. The bi-blade is the lightest, so you do get a little bit more PID performance PID performance out of this prop just because it's a little bit lighter. But being a bi-blade, there are some drawbacks. It is a little bit more slidey, but again, hard to feel the difference. For you guys, I would just say buy them all. Props are so cheap and they're so fun to kind of mess around with, and they're very easy to switch on and off. Just when you get a rig that is flies swings a 2-inch prop, 2.5, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, whatever it is. I always recommend that you buy a bunch of different sets of props out there. It's one of the easiest ways to kind of just mess around with the performance of the rig to try to get it suited perfectly to your flying style. So I don't think you can really go wrong with any of these props, other than maybe the Azure and the HQ. I would maybe skip these if you're on a budget or you just don't want so many options. Between the Gemfan 3-blade, the Avan 4-blade, the Avan 3-blade, and the Lumineer bow tie, these 4 props are a blast to switch off and on in between each one. Again, just to try to dial it in, and just having extra props around is always a good thing. It sort of encourages you to fly harder and crash more, which, if you know anything about me, you'll know is going to get a big thumbs up. So let me jump in here, and I'm going to show you guys a quick little edit that I made with a couple flights from this rig. It's about 3.5 or so minutes. I might jump in at some point during the edit to comment here and there, but basically what I want you guys to see is the flight performance, the hang time. This thing is so lightweight that it really does float down nice and gently. It's a really interesting combination of all up weight to prop size, and there's just kind of something magical about the way that it flies, and I've been having a blast just kind of ripping this thing around in really small spots. So here you go with a little tune. Oh, real quick, actually, I did also want to show Emax's website. This rig is $114.99, so great price. Fantastic starter quad. My very first FPV quad was actually the OG Emax Baby Hawk, the white one, the all plastic one. So that got me into the hobby. I probably put 1,000+ batteries through that thing, just working on getting good in the early days, flying 10 to 20 batteries at a time. And this kind of feels a lot like the spiritual successor to that. So yeah, here you go. Here's a little edit that I threw up. The edit is available on my Patreon page, which is CiottiFPV. Head on over there, and I actually made this post with this edit public so that you guys can watch it full screen. The only downside to doing these reviews here in a stream is that it drops the quality down for the streaming. So I wanted to make this available for you guys over on Patreon. One of the things I do a lot on Patreon is put up like unfinished edits or rough cuts, just little things here and there to give folks a window into what I'm up to. And then there's a lot of good tuning advice over there, PID tuning, filter tuning, lots of good stuff. I work pretty hard to make the Patreon page worth your while. So head on over there for the full quality version of this edit, and then I'm going to play the YouTube version here full screen so you guys can check it out. Here you go. So something I did want to call out really quick here. This is, in my opinion, the best spot to fly this particular rig. Small spots like that are fantastic. Here comes a much bigger spot for you so you can see how it performs flying a spot that I would typically rip with a 5-inch rig.
A quarter to 10 on the clock now. I'm still in your bed. You keep your eyes on me, but somehow our eyes never really met. Don't run away from me. I don't see the flicker I used to see. We talked about all of our worst fears, but you didn't say a thing. And now after all of these years, I still give you everything. In the meantime, the clock is running quicker.
So there you guys go. There's some flight performance for you. A couple of questions came up in the chat, some really good ones while we were talking there. The first one was, let me just find that. Yeah, so Zachary S. in the chat asked if I changed the connector from a PH2 to something else. Let me actually roll over to the my workbench here, and I'll show you the double PH2 setup that it's got, and we'll talk about why I didn't change that. So let me just click here real quick, and this button is going to pull this mic up. All right, great. So here it is. The double PH2 looks like this. And so if you want more performance, a lot of folks are switching these out either to on Tiny Whoops, they're switching them out a lot of times to the BH 2.0, but on something like this, what you'd want to go to is an XT30 if you want a little bit less resistance. The weight, there probably won't be much of a weight savings, if any. But yeah, if you wanted a little bit less resistance from the connector, you could totally switch this out to an XT30. I didn't, mainly because this has become sort of like a companion rig for my Tiny Whoops. And what I'm finding myself doing a lot is I'll charge a whole bunch of PH 2.0 Tiny Whoop batteries up at night, and if I don't fly all of them, I don't have to worry about how on earth am I going to discharge these things. I just wait until the next day, and I can put 2 of them at a time through this guy and discharge them outside while it's bright out. So yeah, I'm actually really kind of in love with this double PH2 design. It works really well for my uses, and yeah, I mean, like I said, there would be a little bit of a performance advantage going to the XT30, but this performs really great. I'm really thrilled with the performance of this little guy. One of the other questions that came up from, one second here. This is a question from Ken Hill. He asked, can it turtle mode? And it absolutely can. The camera on top sits up just high enough and is kind of the perfect height above the prop line so that when this thing is upside down, unless you're in pretty tall grass, there are going to be 2 props up that you can turtle mode this thing back over, and then the battery is going to be on the bottom, so the battery props it up in the grass a little bit so that you can take back off. So yeah, great question, Ken. Let me come back to my main camera here. Didn't mean to do that little spin with it. Let me just get it back there. All right, so there we go. One more quick thing that I did want to call out. Let me hop on over here. Is that it does use Emax's specific all-in-one board. This is not a standard, 26 by 26. This is not that. This is an Emax specific AIO board, but what's nice is they've been using this AIO board for a while, so it's in a bunch of their other models, and so far it performs really well. There's a lot of things I like about it. They've got pads for you to solder the motors to or the plug headers, and then they've also got pads for an external receiver, which I guess we can talk about now. Speaking of sort of durability, on my little guy here, it is actually down at the moment. The onboard receiver just sort of gave up the ghost at one point, probably after about, I don't know, 50 or 60 batteries. I'm sure that that's not a normal thing. I'm sure that's, I just happened to get luck of the draw, well, unluck of the draw, right? But yeah, they put the pads on here so that I just ordered up one of their cheap little D8 receivers from FPV Cycle, actually, of all places. And I'll be able to just solder that thing on in there, and I'll get it right back up in the air, which is huge. The AIO boards that don't have the provisions for receiver, I mean, you're completely locked into it. So another big thumbs up to Emax for doing that. That's something that I kind of didn't expect. I was super bummed out when the receiver started flaking out, and then when it finally let go. But I pulled the canopy off, and lo and behold, there are the pads that I needed just waiting for me. So loving that. One of the somebody had asked me what, in your opinion, would break on this guy, and so let's head back over to the bench real quick. I have not broken anything on this yet. It's taken some pretty big slams. There's some small chunks taken out of the carbon here, as you might be able to see. I had to clean the canopy. It was all green. So I cleaned up the canopy real nice for you guys. But my guess would be that eventually you can maybe break this plastic canopy. They sell replacements. It's no big deal to remove it, to remove the canopy. I would love it if these screws were hex rather than Phillips, but I think they went to Phillips just because they're so small. So you've got 1, 2, 3 in the back, and then 4, and then the plastic canopy pops right off. There is a plug header in the front of the board for the camera so that you can just unplug the camera, and the whole big white piece will come right up and off of here. Oh, really quick, I did do a quick little mod with the receiver antenna where I just put it on a zip tie with shrink wrap in the back here, just to keep it out of harm's way. And also, I don't know, it gets really good reception with this here as well. I didn't have any fail-safe issues, so it turned out to be a really decent place for the receiver antenna to run, and you can kind of see it just runs from the front up here, right over the frame there, and then out the back, and then I've just got that nice little zip tie with the shrink wrap. Pyro drone battery strap, because it's white like the canopy, and they're just very, very strong, and they're nice and short too, which is really nice. Other than that, pretty straightforward. I put an extra little piece of shrink wrap here over the VTX antenna. You would think that it's going to come down in the props, but I have not had that happen. It's soldered directly to the VTX, which is on the top of the board there, and then yeah, it just kind of loves to sit up here like this. At one point, I'd put a nice big glob of welder's glue here to really hold the thing in, but I just haven't needed it. The camera up tilt adjustment is adjusted by this screw and this screw. Again, this camera is the Runcam Nano 2. You could probably just swap any old Nano camera in if you were able to somehow break this one. But again, it's fully enclosed. This is nice molded plastic. It's not like any kind of TPU printed stuff that you'd have to worry about ripping. So yeah, I think that eventually you'd maybe be able to break this canopy. Quick replacement from Emax, and you'll be good to go back up in the air. The other thing that I think you would be able to break at some point are these motors. With micro motors, you've got a 2mm shaft running up on the inside of the motor in the stator, and then you've got 1.5mm up on top for the prop to slide onto. If you hit these things hard enough over and over and over again on concrete or any other like super hard surface, you can bend the motor bell on the inside of here. But I've thrashed this thing pretty good, and all 4 motors still spin perfectly smooth. So the light weight is really helping out. This thing is really a featherweight, and when it crashes, you can really tell. It just kind of bounces off like a tiny whoop, and it just gets right back up and keeps going. So I think we talked about everything there. Oh, also camera stability. So once you tighten these things, this camera is held in really nice. Like I can move it if I really jam on this thing, but when you get into crashes, it really doesn't move, which is fantastic. Eventually these will back off a little bit. You could maybe put like the tiniest, if that's a really big issue for you, I would maybe put the tiniest little dot of super glue on the threads of one of these, and then when you screw it in, that super glue would get up into the threads that are in the camera itself. But to be honest, if you just crank these down pretty firmly, like I said, I have not lost the camera up tilt when I was flying. Only when I sit here and I mess around with it and move it up and down and up and down and up and down is, is when it gets a little bit loosened up. So another big thumbs up on the camera retention, because that's something that, and you can see by me sitting here just wiggling it up and down, I'm able to back that off. But again, throw your 1.5 on there, crank it back down, give it a little turn, and now it's nice and solid again. So I was impressed with that. That's a pretty common issue. Back over here to the main camera. Let me take a quick look in the chat to see if any other questions have come up. We are kind of coming to a close here, so any other questions you guys have, get it in the chat. Tag me at CiottiFPV, and it'll light it up in orange for me to see. What do we got here? KD2RDH Larry says, is the camera and VTX one piece, or are they separately replaceable? Great question, Larry. Come back over here to the bench with me. So the VTX is a custom board that is pinned to the AIO, and you can kind of see it right in through there. So if the VTX does fail, you are going to be getting one from Emax. Although, now that I say that, I guess you wouldn't have to. You would just have to remove this one, and then you could just use the existing pins that it's already on if you wanted to swap it out. To be honest, the performance on this VTX is good enough, and it does have smart audio, so I would actually replace it with the same one. If this VTX ever does fail, I'll get another Emax one and put it back in there. And then, yeah, there's the Runcam Nano 2. So the camera and the VTX are completely separate. You can hot swap, one or the other, replace just one, replace just the other. I mean, if you really wanted to go for it, you could do, and you wanted to get the newest and hottest camera. I thought I had here it is. You could maybe even throw the new Nano Runcam Phoenix camera in there. Looks like it would fit perfectly fine. Yeah, the lens would totally fit, and the mounting is pretty standard. So a lot of options there. The nano cameras are kind of the new hot thing right now, and that's what this thing takes. So you'd be able to keep up with the camera trends. Back over here to the chat, let's take a quick look here. JWFPV, any issue without running props with the screws? Great question, JW. Thanks for asking that. I have been running this without the screws in the props pretty much the entire time that I've flown it, and it's been completely fine. Certain 2-inch props won't support that. Certain 2-inch props don't push on and grab the 1.5mm shaft as well as these blurs do. So your mileage will vary if you're going to try different props. But yeah, I've had a really good experience running no prop screws. And for those of you that don't know, the weight of the prop screws on a 2-inch prop is very significant. It basically makes the prop about 50% heavier. So a prop that's 3 grams all of a sudden is like 4.5 grams. Don't quote me on that number. I forget what these props weigh. I think it's closer to like 1 grams. But yeah, not running prop screws on a tiny little motor like this and a tiny little prop like this will make a significant performance advantage. So being able to do that on this is fantastic. You can really notice it in the PID loop. The PID loop really benefits from having a very lightweight rotating assembly, and the prop and the potentially the prop screws have a lot to do with that. So great question. Thanks for that. Crunk says, why no props out? I just haven't hooked this thing up to be a heli. So laziness is the answer there. Almost forgot. Comes with a great little case. Love this little case that it comes with. It does have custom cut foam inside. I did remove that so that I could put all my extra batteries in here. Speaking of batteries, here are the 450s that it comes with. These have great runtime, but to be totally honest, I actually prefer these GNB 300s. Definitely less runtime, but less weight as well. I really like the flight characteristics on these. One of the, like I was saying before though, I typically fly this thing on tiny whoop batteries, to be honest with you. So I'll wake up from, a night of not quite as much tiny whoop flying as I thought I would get in, and I'll have a bunch of these 300 mAh newbie drone nitro nectars all charged up. These run amazing, and I kind of can't tell a difference between running these and these GNB 300s. These beta FPV 300s, I can tell a difference. These are a little bit weaker, but again, they're also lighter, so you continue to lose weight, which is just really cool. It's really nice to have a rig that you can configure it a little bit, right? You can try a bunch of different batteries. I guess on any rig you can try different props, but being able to run different batteries is really slick, and it just adds a little bit more customization to it for you. Jafar just asked, could it run on 3S or would it smoke? I actually don't know for sure the answer to that. It does say 2S on the website. I would say keep it on 2S, so it is only a 5 amp ESC. Okay, so here's an answer for you. So it's a 5 amp ESC, and these are 7,500 kV motors. So to go up to 3S, that 7,500 kV is going to go up to basically like the 2S equivalent of, I want to say like 12,000 or so, I believe is how the math works. 75 cut in half is 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now it would be closer to like 10,500, maybe 11,000 kV. That is an awful lot of kV. I have a feeling that the 5 amp ESCs would have trouble with that. So I'm going to say 2S only. If you want to try it on 3S, you might be okay if you don't just stand on the throttle at full. But I know Emax wants you to keep it on 2S. You would also have to switch out the double pH 2.0 connector. You'd have to move it over to an XT30 to run it on 3S. So that'd be a little bit more involved of a modification. The last thing that I did want to talk about here is sort of like what the upgrade path for this thing would be. I might handle that on an upcoming Quarren stream, which again I am doing daily on my channel here. For this rig, to be totally honest, I don't know if I would really upgrade anything. The 1103 motors are a really good match for a 2-inch propeller. If I were to change motors, I would maybe just go up to an 1104. It's going to give you a little bit more power at the top of the throttle, but it's not going to be as drastic of a jump as going up to like 3S. So I think for like the upgrade path, a newer nano camera, maybe if you wanted a little bit better quality coming out of the coming into your goggles or your DVR. And then maybe an 1104 motor, but again, I really like the performance of these 1103 7500s. If you did go to 1104, I would leave the KV the same. I would look for a 7500 KV 1104. And then, well, I guess that's about it. And the propellers, right? Just different propellers, different batteries. We already kind of talked about that. I think 450 is the max MAH that I would really run on a battery. Again, I'm really, really happy with these GNB 300s and these Nitro Nectar 300s as well. So I think that would be the best bet for the upgrade path. In terms of upgrade possibilities, because of the fact that it is an Emax specific AIO, you're probably not going to be able to build a beast out of this thing, right? You're not going to be able to get like one of these crazy new 26 by 26 20 amp AIO boards for this thing, which I think that's a good thing. I think this rig, one of the charming things about this rig is that it kind of is what it is. Like, you can't put HD in it, you can't go crazy with it. You can change a couple things out, but you can't just completely rebuild it. My original Baby Hawk, I just kept upgrading that more and more and more and more, and there came a point where there were no original parts left. And at that point, it was like, well, so do I rebuild the original one, or like I upgraded it for a reason? So I actually kind of like the fact that this thing locks you in. It's cheap, it's cheerful, it's a great little rig to just fly outside, not complicated. The most you can possibly do is DVR. So it's not something that you're ever gonna like fly for footage, right? It's something that you're flying for you. You're just going out and you're enjoying the process of flying, without thinking about, again, making good footage or becoming E-famous or anything like that. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there. There's one more question, though. It looks like Stephen Rossi, would you say it pretty much belongs on 2S and just move to XT30 and be done with it? I would. I would, Stephen. The other thing that's going to happen with 3S is that the battery weight is going to go up. They don't make... I've never seen a 3S battery lower than 300 mAh. And again, I prefer this thing on 300 mAh 2S. So if you like really wanted to squeeze every little bit of performance out of this thing, I would keep it on 2S. I would go over to XT30 and then just get a bunch of different batteries, and the different batteries are gonna fly a little bit differently. They're gonna deliver amps a little bit differently, so you can kind of fine tune it by which battery you want run, which props you run. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I would leave this thing very simple and do little things here and there and just fly it, man. Just get it out there, fly it, beat it up, crash it, have fun with it. That's what I'm all about here on this channel. If you guys dug this, there's going to be lots more. There's actually another review coming tomorrow, maybe even one over the weekend. So hope you guys enjoyed. Come on over, join us on my daily streams. I'm also putting up some edits with 5-inch stuff, some 3-inch stuff, lots of good stuff coming to the channel. Appreciate all of you guys for coming over. Lots of good links down below as well. Subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff, whatever you want to do. And then the Patreon is where a lot of good stuff is happening. So check it out if you don't mind. A lot of really good folks over there. Super cool community that we've built on Patreon. People that are in this deal for the right reasons and that are willing to support this channel. Which kind of focuses on micro stuff, but I do a lot of 5-inch flying as well. So again, hope you enjoyed. This is the first of these, hopefully first of many. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Be good.